video reply to the Farmacy Seeds Network. It gave me a great shout out the other day and talk a little bit more about regenerative farming. Thought about it, and rather than try to pack everything into one video, let's there's a lot of things we agree on, a lot of information that needs to be shared amongst a number of YouTube channels, which we've already begun doing. One of the major reasons I started my channel was I've been using YouTube for a decade and a half for research purposes, and really just in the last few years had people say, Brad, you need to start putting some of these videos up on YouTube about these higher nutrient dense foods higher nutrient dense seeds that you're growing. As usual, we're doing the relaxed, unedited version here at Grow the Farm Up. But I wanted to just touch on why higher nutrient dense seeds are even necessary and the science behind them. A study published in 2004 by Dr. Donald Davis at the Biochemical Institute at the University of Texas in Austin looked into at least 43 different common crops, from garden crops, produce crops, and large-scale crops, such as corn, wheat, soybeans, milo, etc., and how their nutritional value had changed between 1950 and 1999. The study was published in 2004, and it began 2 decades earlier by Dr. Davis and 2 colleagues, Melvin Epp and Hugh Reardon, analyzed nutritional data and found on average protein content decreased by 6 to 20% across these 43 crops. Vitamin C had decreased between 15 and 30% across these 43 crops. These 43 different common crops that they studied in this study titled Changes in USDA Food Composition Data for 43 Crops. Other vitamins like B2 decreased by an alarming 40 to 50%. And this study also found significant declines in minerals like iron and calcium. Iron, negative 15%, calcium, negative 16%. The study is titled Changes in USDA Food Composition Data for 43 Crops from 1950 to 1999. Put that in your Google search engine and you will get this study brought up, and it is really some baffling information. Though the exact numbers can certainly be debated, a percent here or there, a crop difference here and there. And after all, the methods of nutrient and mineral measurement have obviously changed, over the time since the 1950s. But the study points to some extremely alarming trends. One of the many reasons cited for declining nutritional value of the food we eat is due to high yield selective plant seed and plant breeding. That's high yield selective seed and plant breeding. And that's mainly high weight yield, not high nutrient yield seed and plant breeding. As we've discussed in numerous videos, modern plant breeding techniques use only dense weight and yield as determined by pounds or weight of the product for the dominant criteria for the development of improved varieties, while average pounds that have been harvested off of row crop farmland and average pounds of other produce crops, vegetables, and things like that, average pounds have gone up. Average pounds have risen when plant breeders selectively breed for one resource using a selected trait like yield only and yield in pounds. Fewer resources remain for other vital plant functions like nutrient uptake. It's very simple. They've essentially been breeding only to get more pounds of yield while disregarding almost everything else. It's called highly selective seed and plant breeding. and it's due to, you know, the factors that I just laid out. They're only interested in getting pounds. It's one of the number one problems with our food supply. Excuse me, long day out in the pollen today, making high nutrient dense seeds, so you'll have to bear with me. But you know, like I said, these techniques, it never ceases to blow your mind what can happen. As we've discussed in many videos on Grow the Farm Up, this info on nutritional decline is nothing new. It's been around for 30 years. I mean, I've been studying it for 15 plus, and really doing something about it in the last 3 to 5 to, you could say 7 to 10 if you wanted to give me a lot of credit. It's nothing new. Remember, this study was published 16 years ago, you know, and the research took place 35 to 15 years ago. You know, so it's already ancient and outdated news. But as with all technology, the rate of change increases. Looking at nutrient density of our produce and staple crops like wheat, corn, soy, etc. As a plant breeder myself, you know, I started this channel because I feel an obligation to tell you the numbers of nutrient dense density that we have already discussed is ancient and outdated. I mean, what we just discussed in this study titled Changes in USDA Food Composition Data for 43 crops from 1950 to 1999, that data is already ancient and outdated. From where I sit, it is safe to assume that nutrient composition decreases exponentially every day, while while the weight of any grain crop and produce crop increases. And the nutrient density decreases. These are the unintended and intended nutritional side effects of turning our food supply over to Wall Street and corporate farming. Not saying that, you know, many big businesses do many great things. Let's not get so single track minded that you say, oh, corporations, no, they're not all bad. That doesn't mean that they're all good either. I've worked for a lot of them out here in the Great Plains, and I'll tell you this, the major ag monopolies know how to make a buck. So in effect, as a consumer, you're paying more for a food product that's diluted with water and empty carbohydrates, because rather than being delivered high nutrient dense, rather than in your food have it be good proteins, fibers, and more soluble essential fatty acids, rather than it being good nutrient dense foods that are coming to you, you're getting a food product diluted with water and empty carbohydrates. Terribly inefficient use of water, by the way. You know, being on the vanguard of this high yield only selective seed breeding technique, I've seen it for 20 years, and people have been trying to get me to breed that way for 20 years. And I'll even admit I did it a little bit. That's how we were trained when I was coming up, when I was 23, 24, 25. And it never sat right with me, but okay, we'll sit in the class and we'll learn. But I always raise my hand and question, why don't we go the other way? Well, you know, I've discussed in a number of my videos why. Let's not jump into that here, but the one thing I've learned is that you can't buy soil quality in a bag any more than you can buy good nutrition in a pill. You know, regenerative farming and higher nutrient dense seeds go together like a hand in a glove, to where you can essentially wipe that statement out, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to sell you soil quality in a bag and good nutrition in a pill, and it's not possible. In short, we cannot import these critical balances to the farm or garden in a bag or a jug or a bottle. We did not start this YouTube channel to get monetized or to try to clickbait our way to, you know, millions of views or anything like that. You know, I started this YouTube channel because the USDA has no comment and cites variables, okay, in the nutrient density tests and facts proven in study after study, not just the study from 2004, but there have been many others. But this is one of the most commonly cited studies. I wanted to equip you guys with this knowledge real quick. And unfortunately, you know, the USDA represents corporate and Wall Street ag, much like the FDA represents big pharmaceutical and big food processors. So what does this do to the food pyramid? Knowing that you really need to eat 25% more fruits and vegetables and 30 to 50% more whole grains to get the same nutrients suggested by the food pyramid. Because notice they haven't changed that. Well, they have, but they haven't changed it based on nutrient density. When already Americans and generally people around the world don't even come close to the recommendations. So it's time for a change in paradigm. It's time to give consumers of food high nutrient density, healthy food grown in regenerative soil. It will be better for the earth to transition scale agriculture to regenerative farming. Everywhere it's possible, there will be places that will be slow to adopt, and we're talking about a 10-15 year transition here, folks. This is not going to happen overnight, but for the guys that have got into soil health, and I'm subscribed to a number of them. Check out the folks I'm subscribed to on my channel. They have got a lot. There's a lot of good nutrient dense and soil health people out there. I don't think we're going to run out of soil health ground to grow our higher nutrient dense, not only seeds, but most importantly, end product and food product. Where do we go from here? We bring the balance back, and I think COVID-19 kind of scared us into some people scared them into staying in their homes, and people did for a brief second start to believe in the information monopoly again. And just for a little while, people are now asking questions as we see, the long-term effects of shutting down entire countries and economies, the riots, disagreements, but really, I guess I'll leave you with this. Are we really, truly ready to have the scales fall from our eyes about our food supply and look at the ugly truth? That the powerful, wealthy, and corrupt organizations, businesses, and individuals are being exposed in every dark corner of the world today. That is a good thing. That's not a bad thing, okay? For those of us ready to take our freedoms back, and for those of us ready to take this next step, we each have a responsibility to each other to restore the balance, to stop the greed and corruption. We're not on our own. There are so many more, just like you and I, that are simply looking for healthier food to eat. I think that's an incredibly high mark to aim for. I think that is a mission worth attempting to obtain. And even if it turns around 180 degrees and goes the opposite direction of agriculture today. And again, I'll go back to, soil health is where it all starts. And channels like the Farmacy Seeds Network, channels like John Stevens' Maple Groves Farm, channels like Eco Agriculture, channels like Green Cover Seeds. There are too many that I can name. I really enjoy watching a lot of these smaller, not necessarily smaller research channels, but really enjoy getting, almost down to a microbial level on what these guys are learning about soil health and what they're doing, and the synergistic, symbiotic relationship between cover crops and how they work, and what cover crops are you using, and what cover crops will drown out the actual crop that you're trying to grow, and what cover crops work well, symbiotically. What we need is we need to understand the best cover crop for corn. We need to understand the best cover crop for soybeans. We need to understand the best cover crop for wheat, the best cover crop for milo. And mainly corn and soybeans, but mainly corn. If you want to turn the United States into a regenerative farming garden, of Eden, if you will, you find me a good cover crop for corn, and we will start making this transition more rapidly than I had even previously predicted we could. I've had some pretty good luck guys, with a product, cover crop called the Austrian winter pea. I got a video on my channel where I go out and show you guys February 10th of this year. I mean, it had been freezing all through October, November, December, January, okay, freezing, 20 below. February 10th, I went out, walked through the field, and I had green foliage growing, Austrian winter pea, and now I have a great symbiotic relationship. Took me a couple of years of learning. The Austrian winter pea will overtake. It's a, without getting into too many details and giving all my secrets away, one little piece of advice I'll give you: don't go cover your whole farm in Austrian winter peas. Take a year or two to grow, even just 10 acres in them. And even if you do nothing else, just plant them and let them grow. They'll change your soil in 1 year and make you a believer. It did me. And that, I think, is where I'm going to drop this, because I've got, you know, like always, 100 other things to do. We're not going to edit it. We're going to let this one just fly out into the YouTube sphere. And I think it's time to recognize that, you know, us farmers that are doing it to a little larger scale, you know, and farmers that are doing it to a little larger scale, the consumer marketplace wants what small farms are providing with, you know, not just farmers markets, but, you know, direct retail, you know, tomatoes and homemade honey, and oh my God, these things are so good. I mean, you know, sweet corn, you know, you see it on sale on street corners sometimes this time of year. Fruits, potatoes, vegetables grown from specific sources, food labels people can trust, fully traceable audit trails for exactly every process that that food product went through, and understanding that corn and soy is in so much of what we eat. Things that you wouldn't even imagine corn and soy are in therein. So let's get away from this weight yield plant breeding basically trend, and let's go back to nutrient density breeding for seed and plants. And when you mix regenerative agricultural practices with higher nutrient dense seeds, there's a much brighter future out there for all of us. And you know, entrepreneurship is something that needs to be more on the rise in America. And in order to do this kind of stuff, you got to be an entrepreneur. I think with, again, COVID-19 kind of tamping everything down, seems like the world's trying to stomp us out, entrepreneurs. Don't let them. Just keep stomping right back, because we're coming, and soon, before you know it, you'll be buying a food that's got the higher nutrient dense label, the regenerative farm label, and you'll be eating healthier, and you'll notice that you feel better. You ever notice how crappy you feel after you drive through McDonald's? I mean, I try not to do that, but I did that the other day, and oh my God, I don't know what happened 45 minutes later. It wasn't that I just, my whole body just felt terrible. I mean, I could feel that it was just empty, blah. And it really kind of, like many things in the last 10 years, just strengthened my old spine, you know, shoulders back, head up. Let's walk head on into this thing and recognize that you're going up against some of the largest multi-billion-dollar ag monopolies that have ever existed in history. You know what? I mean, I've been arm wrestling with them for 25 years, and I'm still here. They're just some companies and some people, just like you and me. Grow the farm up.